Welcome to the Positive Sports Podcast. I'll be your host this afternoon, Ed Montana. As always, alongside me today, my brother from the same mother, Alex. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. We got a bunch of sports in. It feels like Christmas, playoffs, hockey, basketball. Uh, it's all great, man. Look, I'm ready. We gotta we gotta do a live. I'm pretty much done with this virtual stuff. I think the next pod we need to get together already.
Tell me when, bro. I'm in.
I was thinking
I've
about
been,
it earlier.
I've been doing this for your benefit. I've been doing it this way because every time we talk about the virus, you're like, "No, I'm afraid, I'm scared, you know me, wait. So I'm like, all right, man, we'll do virtual. I don't want you to come on the podcast and be crying and nervous and wearing a mask and a hazmat suit and all that. I want you to be comfortable.
Yeah, I think the next one we need to start back up doing you know, get into a regular pod.
I'm in. I'm in like Flint,
Hey,
man.
so real quick before we get rolling into sports, I went to visit mom and dad on Friday night, right? And on the way back, it was late, right? 9, 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And so we're driving back and it's my wife, my two kids in the back, right? And so usually my youngest will fall asleep if it's that time, like she'll just fall asleep. And I was under the impression that she was asleep. So, my oldest son is on the phone, my wife is on her phone, and of course, dad, right, is just driving with, nobody to talk to. So, but thank God there's a radio.
Right.
So the commercial comes on the radio, and I can't remember the brand. I wish I did, because I would definitely shout them out. But it was a commercial, and I can't remember the radio station I was listening to either. But I remember the fucking commercial, and the commercial was a commercial about a condom. And I shit you not, bro. It was the most descriptive advertisement of a condom that I ever heard, especially on the radio.
I don't think I've ever heard a condom commercial.
I'm telling you, I promise you, because after I listened to the whole commercial, like I was so engaged into the commercial as I was looking ahead driving, right, to see where the fuck I was going, that I totally forgot who else was in the car with me. And after the commercial, I snap to say, oh shit, I turn around to see if my daughter is asleep, and she was awake, but she was on her phone playing.
Mm-hmm.
But I know how kids are. Their eyes are focused on the phone, but their ears are listening to what the parents are talking about. So it was very that's never happened to me. But I was so into the commercial that I wish. I mean, they advertised the hell out of this condom. I wish, if I ever need one, I wish I knew what this condom was. I mean, but whatever. Random thought. That's what happened. I thought it was funny, and it was like an oh shit moment at the same time. I was like, oh my God, did my daughter just hear that?
Funny story about driving and paying attention to what's on the radio and stuff. I remember this as vividly as if it happened yesterday. I was a kid. You weren't around yet. So I was like, this was not long before you were born. So I was like 9 at the time. And maybe a little bit younger, maybe 8 or 7. I don't know. But around there, you were not around. I know that. And my parents and myself were driving into work and school, right? Because I went to school in the city. And at the time, our Uncle Pablo was working either close by or something, but for some reason, he was driving us to work, right? So he was driving, and it was my mom, my dad, and myself in the car. And we're on the freeway, but during rush hour, the freeway is only going about 25, 30 miles an hour. It's like being on a regular street, right? And and we're going, and the radio's on. It's the news, right? It's early in the morning, and my dad's in the front, I'm in the back, mom and I are in the back, but I always used to kind of like sit in the middle and look up ahead. I always wanted to see where we were going, how we were getting there, stuff like that. And we're driving along, and it's not stop and go, but it's like you get down to 15, and you get up to 35, you go back down to 15, for the exit or the entrance or merging on or off or whatever on the BQE or whatever. And all of a sudden we're going about 30, and I see a row of cars in front of us, and you see the red brake lights. They had all stopped, right? And I'm like, oh shit. and so I said, Uncle Pablo. And my dad said the same thing. Well, he didn't call him Uncle Pablo. He called him Pablo. He goes, hey. And all of a sudden he slams on the brakes, and the car starts fishtailing. Like the brakes are like, fuck it. I can't do anything. We got too much momentum. Fishtailing. He swerves just a bit, misses the car in front of him. Thank God there was no one coming up alongside of us. And then the traffic keeps moving, so he immediately gets back behind the car that was in front of him, just missed rear-ending it. And my dad goes, what the hell was wrong? He goes, he goes, I was listening to the news, and I heard about because they were talking about two small airplanes collided in the air. He's like, how the hell do they collide in the air? He goes, that's right. They don't have traffic lights up there. And he was like, just trying to figure out how the hell all these planes don't just crash into each other all the time because there's no lights up there. And I'm like sitting in the back, basically shit my pants. But I remember that like it was just. And then right after he said that, my dad's like, hey, dumbass, pay attention to what's going on down here. And we all just started laughing, and it was like we all got scared for a second. But we all had a good laugh about it. And, our Uncle Pablo is a bit of a jokester. And I think my dad half didn't believe him. But we laughed about it. We laughed the rest of the way to work. It was just one of those things, man. It was a good time.
Yeah. No, I was so into that commercial that it was probably only 20 seconds long, but it felt like it was 2-minute long commercial. It was like really crazy. So
I thought you were going to tell me something about getting so enthralled in the commercial that you almost hit somebody and
no,
missed your turn to go home and got lost or something like that. That would have been cool.
No, it wouldn't. And for the record, just because I was not born when that story happened, it doesn't mean I wasn't around. I was around, bro. I was somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, let's think about that for a second.
I was somewhere.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't have been like the half of you that came from mom, you wouldn't have been there because that stuff cycles out, right?
Right.
But with the half that came from dad,
I was with dad the whole time.
I don't know how that works. We're going to have to figure out, we're going to have to make a biology episode of this podcast because I don't know, like, do you have do you have 1 million soldiers and they're just walking around waiting to be shot out, and then eventually, you shoot them out, I don't know, 100 at a time or whatever?
I mean, look, I was the strongest soldier at that, that lasted. If that happened when you were 9, then I made it through a whole year.
You're almost at the front. You're almost at the front of the line at that point. Let's hope mom and dad don't hear this episode.
We have to tell mom to listen to the first of this, to the beginning of this episode. Maybe she can comment on it.
I don't think she'll get it. Dad might.
Yeah,
I don't think mom will get it. It'll go right over.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
All right, man. Well, let's get into some sports. Hey, You were mentioning earlier all the sports on TV now. And look, the NBA is doing it right. This is the way they did it. This is the way they did it years ago before they wanted to have every single game on prime time and they were giving us 2 games a day. And, it took, 2 months to play the first round. They're giving us 4 games a day and they're starting at noon, going until 10 o'clock at night. And we're getting a ton of basketball every day. This first round is going to be awesome. Which first round matchup are you looking forward to the most? You got 8 to pick from.
Oh, I would have to say, look, I'm looking forward to the Lakers and Portland series. I mean, I think the way I've given Lillard a lot of shit, but I mean, the way he's playing is
he is balling out.
He's balling out of his mind. They got McCollum, they got Carmelo Anthony, who I think is like rejuvenated.
They've got that European guy, Jurkic?
Right.
Jurkic?
They didn't have him last season in the playoffs. Remember, he went down with the injury and during the season.
Right,
so, and the Lakers are going to be the Lakers, right? We already know what, LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to give us. How are the rest of the players going to respond, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're missing Avery Bradley, who's a big piece to that defense. And the other thing you got to think about, Ed, and I think with all of these matchups is nobody has home court advantage. Like, there's not that momentum, right? There's not going to be that momentum. So for the road team who would have been the road, they're not going to feel, like if the Lakers come out and, go on a quick 6-0 run, that can easily turn into a, 18-4 run, right? But if it's neutralized by no crowd noise and all that, you kind of don't get rattled, right?
I agree with you. The home court advantage obviously is non-existent, which makes these matchups much closer, I think. So even in this case where you're looking at a 1 seed versus an 8 seed, it doesn't feel like your traditional 1 versus 8, right? And especially in this case where the the Trailblazers are playing good basketball. I mean, it's not just Lillard. The entire team seems to be really stepped up a notch, and he's really pushing his squad, and the impression I'm getting is that no giant looks too big to him. And I think he's got all of those guys thinking that way. When they got into that jawing match with the Clippers a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, however long ago it was, I think that was the point where I think the Blazers themselves started to realize, oh, there is no big dog here. We're all the same, right? We don't give a shit that you're a 1 seed. We're just as big as you are. We've got as many weapons as you do. We're gonna bring the game as well. And so I think there's a very real possibility that we could see an 8 versus 1 upset, and that's the one that I think could happen, because Damian Lillard and the Trailblazers are not looking at anybody as unbeatable, or we're just happy to be here, or oh, look at the stars on that team. I think everyone, and part of that I think is generated by the fact that there's no home court advantage. So that is going to be a very interesting matchup. The matchup that I'm looking forward to, and it is a little bit less than what I was hoping for, is the Celtics and Sixers. With a healthy Ben Simmons and a healthy Joel Embiid, which I know Embiid's been a little nicked up, not too bad, but he's nursing some injuries. That matchup is not as good as I had once hoped, but I still think it's going to be a really good matchup. I don't think the Sixers are going to go down easy, if they go down at all. The Celtics are a good basketball team, but I think so are the Sixers, and I think that's going to be a really fun matchup in the East to watch.
Yeah, it could be. I don't. It's gonna be tough for the 76ers. They'll hang. I think they'll hang around, but I don't. I just feel like the the duo of Tatum and Jalen Brown is,
Too much.
is gonna be too much. I don't know. I don't know that the Sixers are gonna have enough. The matchup that I'm looking forward to is in the East at least is the Heat and Pacers.
That's it. That's a very even matchup to me.
Yeah, it looks even. You
Four
got the
versus
Jimmy
five usually
Butler.
is.
Yeah, you got the Jimmy Butler versus T.J. Warren, right? Those two have been joined all season. Um, I don't know. That one looks kind of interesting to me, but yeah, it should be fun, man. I mean, I think we're gonna get some good games here in the playoffs. I mean, the bubble was a lot of fun. The bubble was fun. Those
Yeah.
8 games were good. I think the Suns surprised everybody going 8-0.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies, they made the play-in game. The Nets upset some teams. Karis LeVert looked like he, can kind of uh, take a team on his back, right?
Speaking of Levert, I mean, he looks like the kind of guy that is asking, who's going to be my Robin,
Yeah,
Durant or Irving? I mean, he almost looks like he wants to take over that team for good. Like he, I, he's not performing like a guy who's filling in the role of number one. He looks like a guy who's saying, I'm going to be number one, and let's work this. Let's work from here and see how we go. When that Durant guy comes back, I'll have someone to help me out, which is really it's been very impressive watching him play.
yeah. And I thought in college he was good in college, and then unfortunately he got injured and didn't play in the tournament. So I
Right.
thought like this bubble games, these 8 games, but I think he only played in like 6. I thought this was his shining moment. Like he really stepped up. He was the go-to guy for the Nets, and I don't know,
Good
he
doing it.
played pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting. The other matchup I'm looking forward to, and again, this one has some injuries that concern me. The Rockets and the Thunder. That
Mm,
is always a good matchup. I don't think Westbrook is 100%. So if Westbrook and Harden were 100%, I'd say easily the Rockets. With Westbrook kind of being dinged up, I think it gives the Thunder a chance.
yeah, yeah, that should be a good matchup. Harden's he's gonna blow up. He's gonna score about 50 points every game in that series
Well, if Westbrook
because
doesn't
he's gonna
play,
have
he's
to.
going to have to, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So it should be a lot of fun. Clippers and Mavericks is going to be a good series. I don't think the Clippers are going to run away with it. I'm a little bit concerned about the Clippers in the bubble. They have not looked great. They've looked kind
right.
of pedestrian. And the same thing with the Bucks. The Bucks have not looked like world beaters. So and again, with no home court advantage, right? There's a lot of situations where you could see an upset and really kind of turn this playoff thing on its ear.
Yeah, definitely. Out of both 1-8 matchups, probably I give Portland a better shot than Orlando beating Milwaukee. But didn't
Yeah,
Orlando beat Milwaukee last year, the very first game
yeah, yeah.
in the playoffs? Yeah. Well,
So anything can happen, right? Obviously, but it's gonna.
so are you sticking with your preseason NBA Finals prediction? I
What
think you
was it?
had the Rockets. I think didn't you have the Rockets and the South Sixers?
Let's see. I don't know. Hold on. I'm going back and looking at some of our. I had I had Sixers and Rockets. That's not gonna happen.
No,
You had Clippers and Celtics. I
that
can
could
see that.
happen.
I can see that
That could
happening,
happen.
especially coming out of the bubble,
Yeah,
right? Look at remember we picked 8 teams, right? We each had to pick 8 teams to make the playoffs, and we went back and forth, kind of like a draft.
right.
I picked Bucks, Nuggets, Lakers, Rockets, Jazz, Magic, Pistons, and Spurs. So I got 6 out of 8.
That's not bad.
You had Clippers, Sixers, Nets, Celtics, Blazers, Bulls, Warriors, and Hawks. So I beat you there. I got 6 out of 8. You only got 5 out of 8.
Wow.
And then surprising teams, I had the Raptors, Heat, and Grizzlies, which I think the Raptors are surprising in the sense that,
Yeah.
well, actually, no, these are the teams that together, I don't know who picked what, but we had those 3 teams as surprising. I think the Raptors are surprising in that we didn't think they would be a 2 seed. And
Right.
the argument that we made was they're not going to drop off as much as you think. They still have a lot of good players there. And the Grizzlies were a bit of a surprise at the end.
Oh yeah.
During the season, before the COVID thing, they were not great, but they really did well after the bubble. And so, that was good. Now, on the other side, disappointing teams, we had the Sixers, Blazers, Suns, and Warriors.
Wait, what?
Sixers, Blazers, Suns, and Warriors.
Well, I think we hit on 2 of them.
Start with the Sixers.
Well, I think they're
Were they
disappointing. I
disappointing?
mean, yeah, I'm just because they don't play as well on the road as they do at home, and we've seen Simmons be injured and they're just disappointing. I think I don't think they're built right, to be honest with you.
No, I agree with you. That is a disappointing team. The Blazers.
A little bit. I mean, they had a playing game.
The Blazers, I think without the break, the Blazers would have been disappointing because I don't think they would have made the playoffs, right?
Yeah, right.
They were on the outside looking in when they started the bubble. So I think we were right until this whole COVID thing threw everything on its head. The Suns, the Suns are the same thing. They're not disappointing now because of the way they played in the bubble, but during the season, again, on the outside looking in. And the Warriors, I mean, between the injuries and, they were disappointing. There's no way to not be disappointing when you have the amount of injuries they had and losing Durant and all that. So I think we were pretty good on the disappointing and pretty good on the surprising. The
Which is
Heat,
pretty good.
The Heat are pretty much where I expected them to be, middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Are you going to make any change to your finals prediction now that we know what the playoffs or seedings look like?
No. I feel good about my pick.
I'm going to change mine.
Who you picking? Who you got?
Sixers and Rockets is what I had.
Now, Rockets is not a bad pick, I think.
Still not a bad pick.
If they can get,
they could get there, right? It could happen. My problem in the East is no one really stands out to me. Like, I don't think the Sixers are going to make it, but I can see the Bucks making it. I can see the Raptors making it. I can see the Celtics making it. Heck, I can almost see the Pacers and Heat making it. I mean, except for the fact that first series is going to be real tough on them. If they somehow get on a roll in this bubble, I could see them taking out the Bucks, right? Like, couldn't you see, maybe not the Pacers as much, but I could see the Heat taking out the Bucks.
I can definitely see the Heat making a run.
Yeah, so while I don't have any faith in my original pick from the Eastern Conference, I really don't have a strong preference for anyone else in the Eastern Conference. I'm kind of in limbo. But just to say something, I'm going to go ahead and say the Celtics. So I'm going to change mine to Celtics-Rockets.
Celtics-Rockets. Yeah, I mean, look, if Russell Westbrook doesn't play the first round, he kind of heals up and is 100%, and the Rockets make it past the first round, the only thing I question with them is they shoot a whole lot of threes and they're undersized, right? So when they go up against Anthony Davis, the Clippers, if they have to play Jokic.
The Nuggets are –
yeah.
And we haven't said a word about the Nuggets, but we really shouldn't sleep on them. I don't care who they play. It's not – you're not gonna rub them out in 5 games.
Oh, no.
If you beat them, you're going to have to go 7 games because they're going to fight you to the bitter end, and they are a big team. And I think as the playoffs go on, especially now that they're going to play every other day, I think that's going to wear on teams. And so they're the kind of team that they could go down 0-2 in a series and come back just because of the wear of dealing with those guys.
Right.
I think they're going to be fun to watch. They're fun to watch right now against the Jazz. So
Yeah. And real quick on the Clippers and Mavericks series, Clippers. I mean, I would think the Clippers are going to win, right? You got Kawhi Leonard, you got Patrick Bev, you got you. I mean, on defense, you got Paul George still. I mean, but don't forget, I think Doncic and Porzingis, they're averaging 30 points in this bubble since this restart. So,
I mean, Doncic is the real deal. I mean, that guy,
yeah.
He is the real deal. I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever. I mean, the guy can play. The guy can play. So I just saw something that caught my eye. We're talking about the Blazers. Were they a disappointment? Were they not? What were they in the bubble? 6-2?
Their record?
Yeah, 6-2 in the bubble.
Yeah, probably 6-2.
Let me go back.
5-3 at worst.
Yeah, let me go back and
well,
look.
they must have gone 6-2 because they were the 14th team or 13th team going into the bubble in the West. They were like way back there.
Yeah, they were 6-2 in the bubble, right? So just to prove the point that we were talking about earlier about them being a disappointment, do you know what their scoring differential is even after going 6-2 in those last 8 games?
What's that? Negative?
-1.1.
Wow.
So over the course of 74 games, which is what they ended up playing, they were still negative. So that tells you that beginning was rough, was not good. So I think we got that right, and then COVID turned everything around and screwed everything up for our picks, just like they screwed up everything else. Those damn germs.
Right. But yeah, man, exciting. I can't wait. I'm gonna sit my happy ass at around 3:00 and watch the Nets and the Raptors.
Good luck with that.
Thanks.
I feel like the Raptors are gonna blow them out. Like I feel like they're gonna beat them 4-1. They're
gonna be close. I think they'll be close games. You know what I mean? It's 4-1 will look like a blowout, but I think once if we look at the box score or we watch the games, it'll be closer than what the series says.
Of the 8 series, to me, that is the one that is most likely to end up in a sweep.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't really have any empirical data to back up that claim. It's just a gut feeling. Seeing the Nets play in the bubble, they haven't had very many exceptional games.
Right.
And it seems like every time I looked up, they were losing by double digits to somebody. Again, could be wrong, but that's just kind of the feeling I get.
Yeah, well, I'll say this about both teams. The Raptors have the second best defense in the league. Mm-hmm. They don't allow points in the paint. And I think this is where the no home court advantage kind of gives the advantage to the Brooklyn Nets. They're inexperienced, right? What I mean by inexperienced is they don't have much time playing together. Like, this is a completely different roster than what they started off with. So they're not going to get rattled, by crowd noise and heckling and all that stuff, right? As if they were playing in Toronto. So, it's every team has a chance. Like, I mean, just for that alone, I think.
Huh?
I mean, just for that alone, I think, teams might, feel like they're in it a little more. And, confidence goes a long way. Right now, the Nets have a lot of confidence, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
We'll see. The NBA really should rethink the way they do their regular season and playoffs, right? Because they had that big break, so a lot of guys got healthy, and then they had 8 games to kind of warm up. I think they should start doing an 8-game season and then go straight into the playoffs, right? Because then everybody's healthy, and boom, you're right into the intensity of the playoffs. Just one man's
8
opinion.
games?
Maybe 10,
Okay. Well, they definitely should consider
just do it like the NFL does it. 16. Boom.
and right into the playoffs.
Right into the playoffs.
Well, maybe with all this they they manifest they put a little wrinkle into how the season's played out and restructure stuff.
I wonder if they're going to consider the play-in game again next year. Like if things go back to normal, I wonder if they'll consider, hey, let's have a play. That play-in game is kind of cool. Let's do that again. Say if 9 is within 3 games of 8, then let's do a play-in game just for funsies.
Why not?
Yeah, I kind of think it. I like the play-in game. The NCAA tournament does it.
Who?
The NCAA tournament does it. Right?
True.
The first 4.
Okay, look, like the Orlando Magic were the 8th seed. They were 33-40. Okay, 7 games under 500. Let's say it was, they were, the same in the 82-game season. I mean, and yeah, you're right. Like if the 9th seed is a game behind, they should get a shot to play, to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
We'll see.
It's more entertainment for us, and ultimately, no one except for the fans of those 2 teams is going to care. So if you're a diehard sports fan like I am, it's just more playoffs. That's great.
Yeah, that's it.
Everyone
benefits.
I just want you to know I'm not doing this podcast alone. My cat just came in here and plopped himself down on a chair.
Cool.
In your chair. He wants to be a part of the show.
Well, make sure you pass the lint roller before I sit on that chair again.
Yeah, because it's the fluffy one. That has hair for days. Okay. Moving on. Baseball. Is there anyone hotter than the Oakland Athletics?
Probably not.
My goodness. The Yankees are playing well too. I mean, let's not, but it seems like the Yankees are benefiting from who they're playing, right? They just finished a weekend sweep of the Red Sox, who are not a very good team. But the A's are up 4.5 on the Astros, and the Astros look terrible. And ironically, it's not their pitching that looks terrible, even though they've used, I think, 38 pitchers already.
Yeah.
It's their hitting. So, that's going to make everyone go, wonder if it's the lack of trash cans.
Yeah.
The A's look great.
Yeah, I mean, they're like undefeated in 1-run games and extra inning games. I mean, they're just like they've walked off 4 times.
Yeah.
A couple of times with grand slams, I think.
Yeah. Well, they tied one up in the 9th with a grand slam, right? A couple days.
Right. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, no, they're playing good. And the Yankees are actually without Stanton and Judge now. They got hurt. So,
But the Yankees, kind of like last season, are quickly reloading because that Clint Frazier kid is good, and now he's going to get a lot of at-bats with those 2 guys out, and he's looking good. He looks like he's ready to take advantage of his situation. It's funny, like here we are about 20, 22 games into the season, 25 games maybe, and it's in the American League, it is shaking out exactly the way we thought it would, right? the Yankees are in first. The Rays are 2 games behind. The Orioles are surprisingly only 3 games out, so they're the surprise.
Oh, they are absolutely the surprise team.
Minnesota's up 1 on the Indians, and the Athletics are up 4.5 on the Astros, and then 5 on the Rangers. So the American League is looking exactly the way we thought it would, right? Yankees, Rays, Twins, Indians, A's, and Astros.
Well, I thought the White Sox would
be
be.
better.
I think eventually they will be. I mean, they fucking cranked out back home runs yesterday.
Did you get
So
that? Was that the right number of bats?
yes, 4.
That,
So I mean, I think they'll turn. I think they'll ramp it up here in the next few games and eventually challenge the Twins and the
well,
Indians.
look, if the schedule gets favorable where they have to play like the Tigers, Royals, and Pirates, they could make up ground quickly. They're only 3 games out. They're playing 500.
Let's not forget 8 teams make the playoffs, right? So I mean, you could fucking literally have 3. You could have Minnesota, Cleveland, White Sox make it.
Yeah.
That's 3. You got Oakland, Houston. I mean, it's just more to go around with.
Yeah, everyone's got a shot, it feels like.
Right.
Now, in the National League, it's a little bit different. You've got the Marlins and the Braves tied for first in the East, which everyone thought the Braves would be there. No one thought the Marlins would be there, but they've also played 6 or 7 less games than everybody else. The Cubs and Cardinals are at the top, but again, the Cardinals have only played 8 games. So, it's the flimsiest of second places, right? Because they've got to actually play all those games.
All right.
And then out west, you have the Dodgers and the Rockies, right? The Padres started off well, but have cooled off. And I still think they've got too much in that lineup to not be a part of the conversation, especially like you mentioned with 8 teams. What's your biggest surprise in the National League?
Biggest surprise in the National League? I guess it's been Colorado. Fucking Charlie Blackmon's hitting like 430. Those guys are hitting, man. And, and their pitching is, I guess, holding up pretty well too. I mean, they're only 2 games back, man.
Yeah, no, they're not far, right? And certainly in a playoff spot. They're playing, 13-8, 5 games over 500 this early in the season. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So exciting stuff. Even the worst team is still kind of in it, right? And that's one of the things about the shorter season and expanded playoffs. It's going to be a while before we eliminate somebody. Now no one expects the Pirates to turn it around at 4-14, but you just never know. What I'll be real curious to see is what happens with the Marlins and the Cardinals, more so the Cardinals than the Marlins, because the Marlins are already starting to catch up in games. So Their numbers are starting to kind of true out with the doubleheaders and stuff. But what kind of logistical problem is it going to be for the Cardinals? Because, they're 10, 12 games behind everybody else. That means, probably no days off, lots of doubleheaders. With the doubleheaders only being 7 innings, though, that helps their bullpen situation. So It's really it's surprise, surprise, right? It's really kind of strange this year.
To say the least.
Yeah, have we said that before?
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out. I mean, I don't know. I just fucking canceled the Cardinals for the season. I mean,
if another team has a breakout where they've got to take 10 days off like the Cardinals did, because the Cardinals were off about 10 days, right?
Yeah, just about.
It's going to, just from a logistical perspective, it's going to make it tough for that team, right? So, like, if the Braves had an outbreak, right? Yeah, they're tied for first now, but if they had to play, call it, 20 games in 13 days or 14 days, that's 7 inning doubleheaders or not. That's that's rough. That's a rough
Yeah.
go. I'm going to look and see exactly how long the Cardinals were on the shelf.
You think Charlie Blackmon hits 400?
No, I'm still going to go with no to the whole 400 thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. Good God, 18 games? That can't be right.
They're 8-8. I mean, they're 4-4. That's 8 games.
4-4.
They're 20. So they missed about 15 games
So
because everybody's around 23.
the last game they played was on July 29th. So there are double headers in here that they're calling postponed. So they last played on the 29th and then resumed on the 15th. So they were off for 17 days. Yeah,
Oh, shit.
if someone ends up being off for, if you're off for, think about it. If you're off for 17 days, let's say it happens on September 1st, and you're off for 17 days, that means that let's call it 15 days. From September 15th to October 5th, or whenever the season's supposed to end, right? The season's supposed to end. The season's actually supposed to end September 27th. But if you miss out on 15 games, from the 15th to the 27th, only 12 days. You'd have to play 24 games in 12 days. That's going to be a bear. Somebody's going to be
5-inning games. 5-inning doubleheaders.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? If you play 7 inning doubleheaders, sure, you get 2 starters, right? But now, if you keep playing those doubleheaders back to back, well, now they can't get their 5 days rest. So think about it. If you play doubleheaders 3 days in a row, that's 6 games. Well, you can't bring your number 1 starter from the first game for that second game on day 3. That's got to be a bullpen game. And quite frankly, you can't bring, if the next day is a single game, you can't bring them back then either. So while we talk about 7-inning doubleheaders will help you if you have a bad bullpen, it's a problem if there's too many of them, because then your starters more games are going to be played without that starter getting his start, because he needs days of rest, not games of rest.
Well, let's hope baseball doesn't have an issue going forward anymore, because I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do.
Yeah, but look, they might very well have an issue, because apparently guys are still not getting it, right? Look at what happened with Cleveland this week, right?
Yeah.
Clevenger and Plesac, I guess they went out or left the bubble or some shit. They had a team meeting. Players talking about opting out if they come back or if they aren't quarantined or whatever. I mean, it's too many people to keep control of in all these different cities. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, in the NBA, you've got them all in one bubble. I'm telling you, I don't know how or what the NFL is doing, but if they're not seriously leaning towards a bubble, they're idiots. Because the NBA and hockey have proven the bubble works. And the MLB has proven no bubble. And here's the thing, right? Basketball has the smallest roster, right? 15 guys. Hockey has the next smallest, 25. Baseball, 35. NFL's got 55. That's more people you have to try to corral. And sure, that makes the bubble more difficult logistically, but it also makes it, when they're not in the bubble, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to do a bubble. I mean, you've already had a couple of teams come out and say they're going to be playing the first 2 games with no fans. So that kind of makes you think, they're going to be playing at their home stadiums. So I don't know.
Yeah, the NFL, I think if the NFL doesn't do a bubble and they have a team that gets an outbreak and they've got to lose 2 games, right? Because the Cardinals, we just said, were out 17 days. That would be 2 games. That would easily cover 2 games. What are they going to do? Make them play Wednesday, Sunday to make up those 2 games?
I don't know.
That's not good for recovery.
They could play double headers too. I mean, come on.
3-quarter double headers.
There you go. Or just play a half of one game, half of another game.
Hey, 3-quarter football is a real thing. I was in Louisiana years ago. I was in Louisiana on I was working, right? And we got in on a Thursday. So we were going to work the entire weekend and then the following week and come back on the following Friday because we needed the 10 days, right? Or 8 days or whatever it works out to. And we didn't want to chew up 2 weekends. So we got in on a Thursday afternoon, like around 4 or 5 o'clock. We decided to go out to dinner. It's a crew of 3 of us, right? We decided to go out to dinner, and we go out to dinner. We went to a seafood buffet because when you're in Lafayette, Louisiana, what else is there to do? The lady at the counter greeted us very nicely. She said, "Will y'all be having the buffet this evening?" And of course we did. So, as we're eating, we asked around what to do. She goes, "Well, there's some early season football you can catch, some high school football." Oh, like, okay, where? And she sent us to whatever stadium there was nearby. And so we go, and we got there right after dinner. So we got there a little bit late. The first quarter was going on. So we were sitting there, and we noticed a lot of football players sitting in the stands. We're like, oh, okay. And I mean, in pads and everything. And they were all sweaty like they had just played, right? So we're like, oh, okay, whatever. And so we're watching the game. The first quarter ends, and then the second quarter, and no big deal at halftime. They kind of roll right into the third quarter, and we're like, oh, it's early season. Maybe they just don't do it. It's Louisiana. Maybe at the end of the third quarter, people just start getting up and leaving. And my coworkers and I are sitting there, and we're like, kind of looking around. What the hell's going on? And finally, we realized they're not all going to the bathroom or the concession stand. They're leaving, right? Like you see people pick up their little portable chairs and stuff. They're leaving. So after a while, it's really thinned out, and we're in the stands, and we're like, maybe we should leave too. And so we get up and start walking, and one of my buddies asked one of the locals, that was a pretty good game, huh? And they're like, yeah, these early season games, these preseason games are a lot of fun. You get to see what the kids got. And then, he couldn't help himself. He's like, they only played 3 quarters. What happened to the fourth quarter? He's like, oh, that's the way we do preseason games here. We only play 3 quarters.
Wow. Well, thank God it's only preseason games.
Thank God, right? So, maybe that's what the NFL will do if there's an outbreak and they've got to cram games for one team. They'll play 3-quarter football.
I hope not. That's a terrible idea.
Why not? You like the 7-inning doubleheader.
Yeah, nah. I mean, I have no choice, but I mean, that doesn't mean I like it. But we'll see.
I mean, look. We've said this before on this podcast. It's 2020. And with COVID, anything is possible.
That's right. That's right.
Crazy as it is. Oh, man. You got something else for us, or can we wrap this thing up?
Let's I'm out of condom stories, so let's wrap it up.
Better than being out of condoms.
That's right.
All righty, man. As always, folks, if you want to catch this wonderful podcast, you can do so on YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, Podbean, whatever your podcast platform of choice is. If you want to get a hold of the show, let us know your thoughts on 3-quarter football. You can email the show, positivesports10@gmail.com, positivesports10@gmail.com. If you want to reach out to Alex, how do they do that?
On Twitter at Brooklyn Gaucho 1.
And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach me on Twitter as well at eMontana21. With that, we've come to the end of another wonderful episode of the Positive Sports Podcast. As always, thank you for listening, watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. We love the interaction with you guys. It's always a lot of fun. And ignore the negativity. Be the positivity.
Peace.